Welcome to the BEASTwriter Family, where social media engagement is encouraged. I am your host, Ryan Sakamoto, and I am here with my man, Jim Trotter of NFL Network. You guys know who he is. You see him on TV all the time. NFL Network co-host of the Huddle and Flow podcast with my man, Steve Weiss. His work has been seen on ESPN, Sports Illustrated, beat writer for the San Diego Tribune. He was the 2017 president of the Pro Football Writers Association, good friend and mentor. Howard University alum, you see it on his shirt. Please welcome my man, Jim Trotter. Jim, how are you doing today, bro?
I'm good, bro. I would do this, give you some of the concept, but I'm not gonna do that with you sitting there. I'm gonna keep my hands down.
Nah, you good, bro. You good, bro. What's new with you, man? Tell us a little bit about what you've been doing. The Huddle and Flow podcast. For those who don't know, follow the Huddle and Flow podcast. It's the best podcast out there. It was just voted one of the best podcasts out there as a finalist. Jim, you are killing it with Steve. Legit.
No, I appreciate you, but that comes back to the audience, man. We've been fortunate enough to have people who are interested in what we have to say and what our guests have to say, and so all credit to them. It's funny. Steve and I both went to Howard University, and we didn't overlap. But when I joined the network in 2018, Steve and I both went to management and said, hey, we'd like to do a podcast from our perspective. And they basically let that idea die on the vine. They didn't say no, they didn't say yes. It just kind of sat there, and for 2 years, nothing happened. And after George Floyd was murdered, and there was this summer awakening among so many people, they came back to us and said, hey, remember that podcast you guys brought up? You still have interest? And we just kind of looked at each other and laughed a little bit, and we decided, you know what, let's go ahead and do it. And it's been received well. So again, thank you to all the folks who listen, who subscribe. And it's interesting because we feel a great sense of responsibility with that podcast, from the standpoint that the issues that we deal with, a lot of them relate to minority hiring, opportunity, that sort of thing. And we feel like we're able to give a voice to those who don't have a voice, because they're afraid of their livelihood being taken from them. So even though we have fun with it, we still feel a sense of responsibility with it. And I think that's what I'm most proud of, that when you get texts and calls from people who say, thank you, for saying what we can't say.
Right. And I think a lot of people, one thing that I know about you and Steve personally is, like, you're very genuine. Like, you say what you mean and you go forward with it. Yeah. A lot of people that we work with, there's people who say the right things, but they don't do the right things.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why I look up to you as my mentor. And when I say, who do you look up to? I was like, dude, Jim Trotter and Steve Weiss. Those are my guys.
I appreciate it.
And legit, like, you guys are so humble. I told you this, before, through our talks, that, I really admire the way that you go about your business and the way you handle yourself, both on and off the football field. And if I can just get an ounce of that in my career, I see that as a success.
You got it, man. You got it. The thing I love about you, True Ryan, man, you do the work. You're not trying to take shortcuts. And I tell that to young people who are in this business all the time. I just got off a Zoom call, actually, with my alma mater, where we were talking to a bunch of students about sports journalism and whatnot. And, everybody wants to know what's the secret to the success. And really, there is no secret. It's all about hard work. It's all about relationships, and it's about developing trust. And the one thing I saw with you from the very beginning is that you don't take shortcuts on this. You do the work, and preparation is key. So you're there. You just keep grinding, man. There's nothing but positive things ahead for you.
Sorry about that. I think the sound was off. I heard you everything. No, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Really means a lot, Jim. And hearing those words from you is really, really encouraging for me to keep moving forward, because without you, none of this would have been possible. So again, thank you so much for everything. And hearing words like that from you means everything to me. It really does.
Keep grinding, bro. You're going to be fine. You are fine, but better things ahead.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about it. I just want to talk to my listeners. They said the sound's off. I just want to make sure if the sound's okay. So if the sound's okay, give us a thumbs up and let us know. But we're going to continue on into this podcast. I am recording it, so we're good to go either way. Let's get into your winners for the free agency. You said the 49ers and the Tampa Bay Bucks were both winners. So please go ahead and tell us why, in your opinion, the 49ers and the Bucks won free agency.
Well, hang on, put my earbuds in. Maybe that'll help with sound if it's on my end. Why do I say the 49ers and the Bucks won free agency? From this standpoint, I'm a big believer in that if you have a talented team, you take care of your own before you start looking for help outside with external free agents. And I thought both the 49ers and the Bucks did that. They came into the offseason with the objective of bringing back players who had been core players to their success. And for San Francisco to go out and sign Trent Williams, Kyle Juszczyk, to get three corners signed, that was big for them. So we know all the people that the Bucks brought back. So for me, that was important. There were other teams that did well that went external, but they were strategic strikes. And what do I mean by that? You take the Cleveland Browns. I thought Andrew Berry and the Browns did a tremendous job in identifying help they needed in the secondary and then going out and getting a John Johnson or a Hill. And they didn't overspend. One of the things I think we saw in free agency this year that was so critical, regardless of whose desire it was, is we saw a lot of 3-year deals. Yes. And so teams weren't going to get stuck with these outlandish contracts for long periods of time. And I think that was important for many of these clubs.
Right. No, you absolutely hit it on the nail, man. And a lot of these guys, because of a decreased salary cap, because of lack of revenue from COVID, they're getting 1-year deals. So I think a lot of these players are betting on themselves this year to hit it big next year because TV deals are coming into fruition the years to come. And so I think if you're looking at it from an agent standpoint, you're looking at this like, hey, if you're good enough, let's bank on yourself. We can probably get more money in the coming years rather than striking a long-term deal this year.
Yeah, we had the Bills general manager, Brandon Beane, on, and I kind of joked with him and said, hey, you're going to be rushing to get Josh Allen done before these TV deals kick in, because he can look to extend them now going forward, even before they get to the 5th-year option. So that's going to be an interesting one to see how it plays out, because I'm not just interested in how teams are going to handle this. I'm interested in how agents are going to handle this. Do they want to slow play it until these new deals kick in, or are they going to say, now if a team makes a reasonable offer, we'll take it, versus we'll wait and potentially get more? So I think it's going to be fascinating.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and transition now into the blockbuster trades. Everybody wants to hear about these blockbuster trades with the San Francisco 49ers and the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins obviously moved back to 12 initially. The Niners moved up to number 3, giving up 3 first-round picks and a 3rd-round pick. What are your thoughts from both parties? And is it a win-win for both parties?
Well, first of all, I love what Miami did. They were able to make a couple of trades and yet still position themselves to get the player that they really want. So obviously they're not looking quarterback. And I think there's a very real potential that quarterbacks could go 1 through 4 in this draft. Definitely 1 through 3, we know. But I think 1 through 4 is a possibility, something that has never happened in the history of this league. Twice before, we've seen them go 1, 2, 3, but never 1 through 4. If that happens, then I think, again, the Dolphins are in a great position. Not only that, to get the guy they still want, but also pick up future number ones. So they keep building for not only the present, but the future. So I love how Chris Grier handled that situation. He put on a clinic. From the 49ers standpoint, I have to be honest with you. I was a little surprised by this trade, only from the standpoint that if you're able to land that franchise quarterback, it is not too much to give up two number ones and a 3. And I say 2 number ones because they flip-flop once this year. So that is not too much to get up if you land that franchise quarterback.
Right.
But I also know Kyle Shanahan well. And I say this respectfully, so let me preface it by saying that Kyle Shanahan is so arrogant in terms of his belief in himself and his play design and his play calling that he believes that if he has a top 5 defense, he can win a Super Bowl because he will create an offense that generates enough points to win it. My belief prior to this trade was that he was very likely to go defense in the first round, to try and build that unit up further, whether that meant going corner, whether that meant trying to find another edge rusher, linebacker, whatever it may be. However he felt it would strengthen that unit. And so when he did this, what it said to me is there is a quarterback there that he really believes in,
Right.
and believes that this guy can be the guy for the next decade or more.
Interesting point that you point that out, because at 12, I was thinking, Patrick Surtain out of Alabama, if he was to slip that fall. I also believe that in this edge class, it's not the strongest as in years past. So I think a lot of these edge rushers are getting pushed up the boards because we see what happened from free agency. A lot of these guys like Carl Lawson, Trey Hendrickson, guys who were just basically got one, in contract years, they had balled out of control, but they were also compensated handsomely in free agency. Whereas if you look into this year's edge class, I think that's why GMs were going to free agency, because they were looking at this edge class and saying, you know what, is Gregory Rousseau, is Jalen Phillips, is Kwity Paye, are they worthy of top 15, top 20 picks in any other given draft? I'm not so sure. However, the critical factors are there for them to thrive. But at the end of the day, we're projecting, just like in any given year, we don't have a generational talent like Nick Bosa coming out of this year's draft class, or a Chase Young. So when you put that all together, I think you see the trends that are going around in the NFL as it pertains to free agency and the upcoming draft, that, a lot of these GMs are looking at it and saying, hey, look, if we can't fill a need at what we want, like in Kyle Shanahan's situation where we're going to get a defensive player, an impact player at 12, might as well make a play for a quarterback, because we need a quarterback. So
well, let me stop you there. It's not just might as well.
Okay.
To do that deal, you have to believe
right
that player
True.
is that type of talent. So
True.
You don't just do it to do it.
True.
You got to believe it. And that says to me, look, the 49ers are smart here. They know Trevor Lawrence is going number 1. They know Zach Wilson is going number 2.
Right.
So they have to believe that either one of these three, meaning Justin Fields, Trey Lance, or Mac Jones, is a guy who can be a franchise guy for the next decade plus. Because they don't, at this point, those are the three they got to choose from, because they know they're not getting Wilson. They know they're not getting Lawrence.
Right.
And obviously Kyle Shanahan believes that he has that guy.
Absolutely. I ultimately think that guy is going to be Justin Fields if they stay at 3. I know there's been talk at Mac Jones. I don't see that happening, or Trey Lance. I wouldn't be shocked if it was Trey Lance, because he has a high ceiling and I like the critical factors that he brings to the table, but he's just too raw for me. Ultimately, I think that guy's going to be Justin Fields, but we're just going to have to see how that one plays out. But great analysis and insight. This is why you follow Jim Trotter, guys. Jim Trotter knows his stuff, obviously. All right. See, look at the comments. Mr. Trotter's the truth. Look at that, dude. All right.
I paid him well to put that up there.
All right.
Or her. I'm sorry, Kim.
Yeah, Kim. He was actually recruited to play at Hofstra, believe it or not.
Who?
Kim, right here. Kim.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Kim. I said she. I meant he. I apologize.
So let's go ahead and dive into our next topic. We talked about the blockbuster deal that obviously the Niners made with the Dolphins, but what about GM Chris Grier? You just touched based on Chris Grier. I think GM Chris Grier should be a top GM, if not the GM executive of the year, if all goes well. The Dolphins are my AFC pick to represent the Super Bowl this year. I know that sounds crazy, but I am picking the Dolphins. Yes, I am picking the Dolphins. They have the least amount of holes of any NFL team. They set themselves in a financial flexibility position to where they're winning the draft position too. As it pertains to the NFL draft, I believe they have 5 first-round draft picks over the next 3 years. So they have draft flexibility. And if you look at the needs that they have, there's not very many. They need a running back, obviously. They already got Will Fuller on a 1-year, $10 million contract to team up with Devontae Parker outside. You already have Mike Gesicki. Your offensive line is pretty much set because you got Robert Hunt, you drafted in the 2nd round, Austin Jackson in the 1st round. You already have Solomon Kinley. The Isaiah Wilson experiment failed before it even got started. But you just look at the defense side with Xavier Howard, Raekwon Davis. I mean, they're doing everything right. GM Chris Grier has his ship riding in the right direction. And I don't know if it's me, but I am really bullish on the Miami Dolphins. What do you think about the Miami Dolphins then, after trading back to 12, moving back up to 6 with the Philadelphia Eagles?
No, I thought that Chris Grier, in terms of his moves, was tremendous. He was playing chess. You know, everyone else was playing checkers. He was playing chess. I'm not ready to say that they are the class of the AFC. Here's what bothers me a little bit about Miami. Yes, they're talented, they're well coached, and all of that. But for Tua to reach his potential, in my opinion, they need some stability at the coordinator position. There has
True.
been a new offensive coordinator there every year that Brian Flores has been there. And coaches talk about this. And I heard this from coaches on the outside who had some interest in that job or were contacted about that job, the offensive coordinator job. So from my standpoint, I'd like to see stability there. I do think losing someone like Kyle Van Noy and that leadership, it's going to be interesting to see who picks up that mantle for them defensively. But I also know this, the AFC is loaded. And Tua has got to take the next step when you start talking about representing the AFC in the Super Bowl.
Right.
Does he have the ability? I believe he does, even though people out there keep questioning him.
Right.
At this point. I mean, my God, he's a rookie last year. Cut him some slack. Give him a minute. And the other thing he got caught up in, I believe, is that the offensive coordinator, Chan Gailey, last year did not want to play Tua. He came in believing he was going to be calling plays for Ryan Fitzpatrick, who he had a history with.
Interesting.
And when that change was made, I just wonder, you saw the play calling change because under Fitzpatrick, you saw them going downfield more. With Tua, you did not see that. And Tua threw a good deep ball in college. So I'm curious to see how that's going to play out with the change that they made there.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting you point that out there. I didn't see the perspective that you point out with the offensive coordinator and the shakeup there. Very, very good point. Which leads me to our next thing that we want to discuss is obviously people like these banners that I put on the bottom. But let's talk about this for a second. All right. We talked about draft crush. I know you who do you have a 2021 draft crush? And if not, why?
I don't, from this standpoint. I'll be 100% honest here. Number one, I don't see a lot of college football during a regular year. During a pandemic year, I'll be honest with you. This year was tough on me, not being able to go out, not being able to be face to face with players and coaches. And there was even a period there during this where, you know, we talk a lot about mental health and whatnot, where you know, sort of I was in a fog where I found myself sort of, I don't want to say depressed, but it was a tough period because when you've lived your professional life one way for so long, to have that taken from you overnight, it was difficult to deal with for a minute. And I found myself not even watching college football that was on for whatever reason. It was like the game, it didn't resonate with me the same way, particularly when fans aren't there and whatnot. Like, for instance, the first 2 weeks of the season, I went up to LA with the opening of Sophie Stadium, watched the Rams opener one week and the Chargers opener the next, and couldn't get into it because there are no fans.
Yeah.
You know, and even Aaron Donald joked about it. It's like it's back to Pop Warner where you could hear your mother yelling your name from the stands, you know? So for me, that's why this year, as it relates to the draft, you know, in years past, I would watch some college football, particularly when we got to the playoffs and whatnot. And that's why you and I talk about Justin Jefferson. I watch him play and I'm like, are you kidding me? This guy's phenomenal. This year, I didn't even watch the national championship game. That's how much I just was not into college football this year. So that's a long-winded way of saying I don't have a draft crush this year. Here's what I do know, just based on history, is that these quarterbacks, again, are going to be overvalued, and teams are going to rush up to get one, and more than half of them are not going to pan out.
You hit it on the nail. I've been saying this on my live streams, and people are like hyping people like, oh, this guy's Trey Lance is the next Josh Allen. I mean, I get the comparisons. I get we have to do that. That's our job. We have to compare. But you're absolutely right, Jim. All these quarterbacks.
Let me do this for you, Ryan, because I wrote this out the other day. Like, I didn't know we were going to talk about this, but I have these notes in front of me because I had been looking at some things. So
Okay.
let's go back. We typically say what? It takes 3 years for a player to develop and really
Correct.
establish who he is, right?
Correct. Correct.
So
Correct.
let's go back then to, let's start with 2017, right? So, and we're talking about first round quarterbacks taken.
Okay.
So 2017, we have Trubisky, Mahomes, and Watson. Great year. 2 of those 3
Right.
franchise guys. 2016, 3 taken in the first round. Goff, Wentz, and Lynch. None of them are with the team that drafted them.
Wow.
Go back the year before that, 2015. There were 2 taken in the first round. In fact, they were taken 1-2. Winston and Mariota, neither of whom are with the team that drafted them. Go back the year before that, 2014. 3 were taken in the first round. Bortles, Manziel, Bridgewater. None of them are with the team that took them. Go back the year before that. There was 1 taken in the first round. E.J. Manuel. He's not in the league. Go back the year before that. There were 4 taken in the first round. Luck, Griffin, Tannehill, Whedon. None of them are with the team that drafted them.
That's right.
So, and I can keep going down the list here. Go back to the year before that, 2011, to me, which speaks to what this potentially could be. There were 4 taken in the first round. Cam Newton, Jake Locker, Blaine Gabbert, and Christian Ponder. None of them are with the team that took them. 2 of them are out of the league. And Gabbert, as we know, is just bouncing around. So you want to go back a year before that to 2010? There were 2. Sam Bradford and Tim Tebow, neither of whom are in the league. The year before that, there were 3. Stafford, Sanchez, Freeman. Only Stafford is in the league, and he's not with Detroit anymore.
Wow.
Go back before that, you had Matt Ryan and Joe Flacco. The year before that, you had Russell and Quinn. The year before that, Young, Vince Young, Leinart, Cutler. I mean, so as we go, history shows us. And remember, don't look at it through the prism of today, but think back to that moment when the draft was about to occur, what everyone was saying and how they were hyping these guys, right? And you had to trade up. You got to get one of them. You know, these can't miss guys.
Yes.
Well, history's telling us you're going to miss.
Right.
And that's what I fear is going to happen this year.
Great points. Great points. This is why you're on the BEASTwriter family, bro. This is why you're good stuff. Jim, I'm telling you.
I'm just saying.
But people don't look at that, bro. Jim, people don't look at it. They just look at instant gratification. They don't look like the long-term gain. And if you're going to look at the long-term game, you have to delve into the past in order to predict the future, which is what exactly you just did. Bro, you hit it on the nail.
I'm just saying, you know, I understand the importance of the position, and I understand why it gets overvalued. But if I were a GM, which I am not, my philosophy would always be, Ozzie Newsome taught me this.
Yeah, he's the best.
Yes, sir. For the most part, and I'm not saying this is exclusive, but for the most part, turn on the tape and the tape will tell you everything you need to know. Mm-hmm. Don't get caught up into all these outside things. And then you stay true to your draft board. You know, when you start ranking players, stay true to it. And if that means that you build up a certain position, so be it. But you want to draft impact. You know, you don't always want to be drafting up for potential. You want impact.
Jim, you are preaching to the choir, my man. That's exactly what I would do if I was GM. And again, Ozzie Newsome is the best GM ever. In fact, I have him ranked number 1. I have my own GM list. Eric DeCosta learned a lot from Ozzie Newsome, and Ozzie Newsome is the man. When I say the man, he's number 1. Number 1.
Yes. Yes.
I would go and take it a step further because a lot of teams do not let the board talk to them. They formulate these draft boards, and there's 2 types of draft boards. You have your vertical board, and then you have your horizontal board. So when you decipher between the 2 and they're sitting up and you're on the clock and you see some guy saying, you know what, we know this guy is way better than this guy on our horizontal board, but we have a bigger need here. So we're just going to diminish the value of the pick and select this player. Well, you're going to lose out on the valuation of that selection. So like you just pointed out, that's not Ozzie Newsome's MO. He always tends to go BPA regardless of need because everything else will work itself out in the end.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
There you go.
Sir. You know, that's where, you know, what good is it to reach for a guy if you don't believe that he can actually play? You're then in the same position and you've wasted a first-round draft pick, you know? So I I don't get it. I mean, I get it, but I don't get it.
No,
Put it that way.
let's just put it this way. If me and you were in the same war room and some guy was trying to do that, we'd be like, no, 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 no. You're not walking up with that selection. Sit back, take a back seat. We're going to take over. Legit. Good points. Good points on dude. Ozzie Newsome was a genius. Oh my, I have so much respect for that guy.
Oh, he's
Again,
the best.
number one in my book. Number one.
Agreed.
Jeez, the guy was a beast. Beast approved. All right, let's go ahead and talk about some other things. So you don't have a draft crush. Our draft crush last year, me and Jim, was both Justin Jefferson. You guys know that. But yeah, fast forward to 2021, I agree with you. It's hard to really, without NFL Combine and then these pro days, they're unofficial times. So it's kind of like, it's hard for me to gauge, even as a talent evaluator myself, to gauge what these numbers are. And without seeing so much game film, it's really hard to decipher how good these guys are. So great points on what you put out on the GM prospects and how to evaluate certain players. All right, let's go ahead and talk about your Huddle and Flow podcast. That's a big thing here. Huddle and Flow podcast, for those who don't follow him, obviously Jim Trotter and Steve Weish have the Huddle and Flow podcast. They were just nominated as a finalist as, what was it again? One of the best
best new sports podcast.
There you go. There you go. So it's on there. We're going to talk about some things that you discussed with Brandon Beane, the GM of the Buffalo Bills. Discuss with us, please, and shed some light on the diversity problems here in the NFL. I don't feel like a lot of people want to talk about this because at the end of the day, it's an owner's problem and people don't want to step on owners' shoes or foot. I don't care. We're going to do it because it is a problem. Brandon Beane discussed the revised hiring process proposal. Can you touch base on that and what exactly does that entail? What does that mean?
Yeah, basically what the Bills are proposing or want to propose is that any interviews for the head coaching position must not take place until after the conference championship games. So, in other words, if I'm the 49ers and I have a head coaching opening, even if I have an opening going into the offseason, meaning after the first day after the regular season, I can't interview anyone for that position until after the championship games. And the Bills have said this is a way of leveling the playing field, meaning that if you have coaches, assistant coaches that people are interested in, that they're not hurt by the fact that they're busy preparing for a playoff game and therefore don't have time or the availability to interview for a head coaching job. There are others who say this proposal is simply a means of clubs who are in the playoffs being concerned that their coaches are being distracted. So Buffalo presents this proposal, but people are saying it's not really about leveling the playing field for Leslie Frazier and Brian Dable. This is about keeping them from being distracted as long as the Bills are in the playoffs. And we know they went to the conference final last year. So here's what I would say about that. Sean Payton came on our podcast and he suggested the same thing, that interviews be delayed until later in the playoffs or after the playoffs so that everyone can start at the same time. Some teams are saying, why should we have to do that? If we have an opening, we want to get started as quickly as possible. If the coach is going to be involved in the general manager hire, then we want to know who that person is going to be so that we can proceed, et cetera, et cetera. So you see both sides, but as Brandon Beane said to me, and this is what I ultimately come back to, is that the way it is done now is not working in terms of equal opportunity for people. Think about this. Over the last 4 hiring cycles, there have been 27 head coaching vacancies. 27. Only 3 have been filled by Black men. So my point is, I get people who say to me, why do you guys always bring up race? Why shouldn't a team be able to hire the most qualified person? To which I respond, I agree with you 100%. Teams should be allowed to hire the most qualified and capable person. But are they doing that? And
no, they're not.
Right. But this is how, when people say, who are you to say that? I would say this, do this, take this exercise for me. Take blind resumes, take the names off of them and put them up on a board. So if I were to put Nick Sirianni's resume up over here without his name, and I were to put Jim Caldwell's resume up over here without his name, and you were to look at them objectively, which one are you taking? I think
Jim
it's pretty easy
Caldwell.
to say. Exactly.
Caldwell, of course.
Exactly. So even with Dan Campbell this year, or versus say even Eric Bieniemy or someone. So that's all we're saying here is you can't say that it's about hiring the most qualified when clearly and objectively the most qualified aren't being given the opportunity. That's all.
And let's take it a step further. I always like to say peel back another layer of the onion to really get to the core. So we're going to talk about this because I think it's a real issue. And props to you and Steve Weiss for pounding the table for it. I think you guys should not. I think every day you should bring it up. I don't care if people get tired of it. It is an issue. Heck, I'm pounding the table for it too. The Rooney Rule was in place for a reason, but do you think the Rooney Rule is enough? Because obviously, based on future behavior, it shows that it's not enough. It's a good step in the right direction, but is it enough? Because at the end of the day, this is becoming a owner's problem. It's not a league problem as it is an owner's problem. It stops at the top, and the top is not the ones that are really taking this serious, in my opinion.
Right. A couple things here. You're absolutely right. It is an owner problem, not a league problem. The league has done pretty much everything it can to try and level this playing field. The problem for me here is that too many people focus on the Rooney Rule and miss what the Rooney Rule is about. Remember how the Rooney Rule came about? It was back in the early 2000s when the late Johnny Cochran and Cyrus Mehri were going to sue the NFL over discrimination because of the lack of hiring of minority head coaches. And at that time, one of the offshoots of that was the Rooney Rule, which they decided, let's put in something to slow down the process. That's what the purpose of the Rooney Rule was, to slow down the process so that owners would take the opportunity to interview at least one minority candidate. Well, now everyone seems to think that that was going to solve the problem because over the next decade, there was incremental improvements to where the NFL had a high of, it was either 7 or 8 minority head coaches. I can't remember. Well, since then, everyone got comfortable and believed that the issue was resolved. But as minority coaches have been fired, they're not being rehired at the same rate. And therefore, we were down to, I think it was 1 or 2 black head coaches at one point a couple of years ago. So all this focus on the Rooney Rule, to me, is just sort of a distraction. It's not the issue. When you talk to minority coaches and you say, what do you think is the reason that more black coaches aren't being hired? They say to you, they believe that owners, there is a lack of comfort with people who don't look like them, period.
Wow.
So there has to be a way for owners to get to know these candidates even before an interview so that they have a comfort level with them. And how do you do that? That's what we're all fighting for here to figure that out. There's been talk about bringing in minority offensive coordinators to the owners' meetings, for instance. And that way, maybe there's a day or a morning where they all have lunch, or breakfast or whatever. But the problem with that is owners' meetings are now becoming shorter and shorter, whereas they used to be, say, 3 days.
Yeah.
Owners are getting out of there now in a couple of days, so there isn't that time for that. Ryan, I don't have the answer for you, but here's what I do know. Trying to incentivize this process by bribing people, meaning that if you hire a minority coach, you will get improved draft position, is not the way to go. As I always say, if you have to incentivize a process for people to do what's right, you've already done the wrong thing.
Right.
So that's not the way to go.
Right.
I'm hoping we'll see improvement, but let me give you one other element of this. I know I'm going long on this.
No, talk about this. No, people need to know.
I can't hear you now.
Oh, you can't?
There you go. I got you now.
Okay.
The other thing that I would say to you, here's the issue. God, for some reason, I'm getting Siri in my ear. I don't know why. But here's the other thing that I would say to you. When these interviews take place virtually, when these minority candidates look at that computer screen and see the X number of people they're talking to, how many of those people actually look like them? In some cases, none. So now ask yourself this, and this is why I focus more on the general manager or even the club president. If you don't have diversity at those levels, The last person who typically talks to an owner before a hire is made is the club president or the general manager. Well, prior to this year, this last season, there had never been a black club president in the history of the NFL. So we know that that person wasn't there. And prior to this offseason, there were only 2 black general managers. So the likelihood that the last person that an owner talked to was someone of color was 2 out of 32. So to me, that issue has to be addressed as well in order to have a trickle-down effect to the head coaching level.
Great points. And you know who else echoed your analysis too? Ray Lewis on NFL Showtime. During the year, he said on NFL Showtime, and he actually said the same exact thing that you said. You know, if they don't look like you, basically it's basically what you just said. It's really becoming a problem because, again, it's funny how Eric Bieniemy is not a head coach. I mean, it's tragic. And you cannot say he didn't interview well, because that would have already been, we already would have revealed that. No, it's not a problem. He knows what he's doing. He's a good interview. Why he's not a head coach? Well, hello, could it be because he's black? I'm just gonna put it out there. I mean, it's a big reason why Eric Bieniemy should be a head coach by now over some of these other guys who are head coaches. I'm not taking away anything from them, but let's be real about one thing. Eric Bieniemy is a better candidate than some of those people that got head coaching jobs.
Well, it's funny because I get people who will say to me, how do you know Eric Bieniemy is going to be a good head coach? And my response to them is, I don't know that he's going to be a good head coach. I don't know that he's going to be a bad head coach. What I do know is that he has earned the opportunity to succeed or fail based on the merits of his job to this point. And that's all anyone ever wants. Yes. It's an opportunity, nothing else. Right. They don't want to be treated any other way. But if you have earned an opportunity, the chance to then climb that ladder should be there. And it has not been there.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the Fritz Pollard alliance. I don't think a lot of people know about the Fritz Pollard alliance. I think it's a really good thing that they have going on. Can you just discuss about what exactly is the Fritz Pollard alliance and what's their mission statement and what they're trying to do for NFL players and coaches and so forth?
Yeah, the Fritz Pollard Alliance is one of several organizations that basically is trying to level the playing field when it comes to diversity among head coaches and front office people. So for years, it was run by John Wooten. It's now run by Rod Graves, the former GM of the Cardinals and longtime executive in the NFL. So that's one organization. There's another one that was founded this past year by Michael Locksley, the head coach of the University of Maryland. I'm trying to do this off the top of my head. I think it's called the National Coalition of Minority Football Coaches. Okay. And on their board, they have people such as Ozzie Newsome, Mike Tomlin, Bill Polian, Debbie Yao. They have people from both the college game and the pro game trying to figure out ways to address this issue on both the college and the pro level. So these are organizations that are trying to do the same thing that, the league office is trying to do. And I give the NFL league front office a lot of credit for trying to address this issue. But again, no matter what it does at the end of the day, it does not make these hires. Owners make these hires. And that's where we've got to keep the focus.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You make great points. And again, I commend you and Steve for continuing to stand up for what you believe in, because I always say this: if you don't stand up for it's not living if you don't stand up for what you believe in, right? For you to be able to go ahead and do that against conventional wisdom because other people are afraid to put themselves out there like that, I think it says more about who you and Steve are more than anything else. So again, here in the BEASTwriter family, we always have your back. And again, you're awesome. You know your stuff. And by you going out of your comfort zone, because you don't have to do this, you can just take a back seat and just hide behind the scenes, but you're not. You're at the forefront of this. And I think you and Steve have a voice. And I just think it's very admirable of you guys to continue doing what you're doing. And again, I have your back. And I think you guys should push this every single day, because at the end of the day, we need to bring this to the forefront. And unless someone like you speaks out, it's just going to be on the back burner, and on the back burner, on the back burner. But because you and Steve have this Huddle and Flow podcast and you talk about these issues on a day-to-day basis, people are becoming more aware. And I think that's the end of the day. That's the basic key word that I want people to come from this is I think people need to be aware of what's going on. So thank you so much for that.
No, thank you. And again, it's not just us. It's really us trying to give a platform to give a voice to the voiceless. That's all it is. And I'll never forget this, Ryan. Real quick story. We're at the combine. I can't remember how many years ago. It may have been 3 years ago, somewhere in there. And I leave the building and go over to the mall to get something to eat. When I get up to the 3rd floor, whatever floor it is there at the Circle Center, I see like a half dozen Black assistant coaches hanging out talking. And so they call me over, and I won't use their names, but they said, you got to do something about this. And I said, do something about what? And they said, we're not getting hired. We're not getting head coaching jobs. And I said to them, what can I do? I said, I've spoken on this. I need you guys to speak on it. And they said, well, we can't speak on it, or we could lose our job, or we'll never get the opportunity. And they said, we need you to speak on it. And so one of the people in the group, I can say his name because he said it was okay, was Daryl Drake, the longtime wide receiver coach with the Cardinals and the Steelers and whatnot, he has since passed away.
Right.
But I remember Coach Drake said to me, he goes, you know what? He said, I'll speak on it. And he said, I'm near the finish line, and somebody's got to speak up for these young guys. And I said to him, Coach Drake, I said, do this for me. I said, just think on it. I said, I'll come back to you in a few weeks. And if you want to speak on it then, you can when I do a story on it. But just think on it. I don't want you to make an emotional decision or rush anything. So I called him 3 weeks, 4 weeks later when I was going to do the story. And I said, hey, you still want to speak on it? And he goes, absolutely. And he did. And he talked about the frustration, even anger that Black coaches were feeling because they had earned the opportunity to have a shot to be a head coach, and yet they were not getting those opportunities. And he's right. So to get to bring this back to the podcast, that is why Steve and I do what we do in terms of addressing this issue. Is I keep going back to that conversation where I had with those coaches where they said, you guys need to do something because we can't. That's all we're trying to do.
That just makes me angry because for someone to stand up for what they believe in and they're afraid to voice their opinion, freedom of speech, out of fear of losing their jobs. No. There's something wrong there. There's something definitely wrong there. And I get goosebumps because I'm so angry right now hearing that story. It makes me very angry.
It's a true story.
Very, very sad. I'm at a loss for words. I don't know what to tell you, Jim. Like, this is live, and I'm very upset about this.
If you're upset, imagine how they feel. And that's what Steve and I always have to remind ourselves. It's bigger than us, you know? It'd be easy, like you said, it'd be easy for us to just focus on football. But these are, these men, this is their livelihood, This is something that they, you always aspire to be the best that you can be in your profession and to climb to the highest ranks and to feel like you've done everything you can do and still not get that opportunity. I recently wrote about this, and during the Super Bowl, actually, when Bruce Arians had 4 minorities as his coordinators, and people were talking about Eric Bieniemy not getting a job. And so I wrote a story saying that all this is history repeating itself. Like, we're focusing on Eric Bieniemy, but if you do your history, you'll know that there are others who have been in this situation. And I went back to Sherm Lewis and Jimmy Ray, who 49er fans will know, back in the day, who were black, who were coordinators. They obviously are Black, but they're coordinators for NFL clubs and seemingly had earned an opportunity to be a head coach and never got it. And Sherm Lewis, when I say that he was Eric Bieniemy before Eric Bieniemy, consider this. He was on Mike Holmgren's staff in Green Bay as the offensive coordinator. Now, we know Mike Holmgren called the plays, but even so, think about the coaches, position coaches on that staff who all became head coaches.
John Gruden,
Steve Andy Reid, Steve Mariucci, Marty Morningwig, Mike Sherman. All of these people are under Sherm Lewis. And they all became head coaches. And Sherm Lewis never got an opportunity. Wow. So when people tell me, oh, Eric's going to get it, his time's going to come, I always say, tell me about Sherm Lewis and then tell me again that Eric Bieniemy's time is going to come. You can't say it. You can't guarantee it because we've seen this before. And we know how this movie ends.
Yeah, absolutely. It goes back to what you said. I mean, everything comes full circle, but we always have to go and delve into the past to predict the future, just like what you did with the quarterbacks early on in this live stream. Again, we have to learn from our past in order to move on toward our future. And if we're not doing that, history is just going to repeat itself. At some point, we need to break that pattern of behavior to where we actually take it for what it's worth. And again, the whole compensatory selections for minority candidates for incentive, you know what I mean? That is total. Yeah, I agree with you. Like for you to have to do something, it's almost like, oh yeah, okay, you do it. Oh, we get draft capital in return. So are you doing it out of the genuineness and kindness of doing the right thing? Or are you doing it just to get something in return?
Right. Yeah. It's a great question.
Doesn't make sense. All right. Thank you so much for touching base on that. We're just going to move right on. And to end the podcast, I'm doing something new. I'm going to do a thing called Getting to Know Jim in the BEASTwriter 2-minute drill. So this is a fun thing. We're transitioning. Basically, it's a this or that. I'm going to give you two options, and you say what's on the top of your head. And you tell me when you're ready to go, and we will get started. All right, you ready?
Ready.
All right, dude. So here we go. Let me just get these questions up, and we will be up and running. All right, Getting to Know Jim in the BEASTwriter 2-minute drill. Here we go. Pizza or burgers?
Oh, that's an easy one. Pizza every day of the week. Favorite food, man.
Hey,
favorite
that's
food.
What we're gonna get. Hey, when you come back to Levi's Stadium here in the Bay Area, we're gonna grab some pizza. Callaway or Ping?
You know, for years it was Ping, but it's now Callaway. I'm actually waiting on a new set of clubs. It should arrive in a couple of weeks. So Callaway.
Well, you're in luck. My brother-in-law is a sales regional rep in Hawaii for Callaway. I'll hook you up with some stuff.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Dogs or cats?
Oh, that's an easy one too. Anyone who knows me, I'm a dog guy. I've got a 140-pound German Shepherd here waiting outside the door for me. So.
Oh, do you really? 140 pounds?
Bro. Dude, she's on a diet. She was 148. and here's the thing though, Ryan, she doesn't look overweight, and she's just one of those thick boned dogs.
Yeah.
And she's massive, man. She's just pure and
pure
she's
muscle,
huge.
Pure muscle,
she's
right?
Huge. Yeah.
I had a half German Shepherd, half Rottweiler since I was a kid, puppy, and those things they're big. They're big. But they're kindest dog. They're the nicest dog.
Well, let me put it this way. You walk up to the front door, she ain't so nice. So.
Okay. So before I come to your house, I'm going to be like, hey, Jim, I'm at your crib. Can you make sure the dog's on the leash?
Exactly.
All right. Here's a good one. Pancakes or waffles?
Yeah, that is a good one because I could go either way. I would I just had waffles last weekend.
You're off your diet, Jim. Stick to your diet.
I have no diet. I have no diet, man. I'm being honest with you. I have no diet, which is why I ride that damn bike so much, I think, so I can justify eating what I eat.
And you look great.
Thank you, bro. Doing it. Thank you. I'm not Ryan, but I'm here. I'm gonna say pancakes.
Ooh. I'm a waffles guy. All right.
See, because I get banana pancakes or strawberry pancakes, so I'm gonna say that.
Okay, makes sense. That's a good point because you can have different types of flavor pancakes. Get it? All right, here's a good one. And this might sound kind of weird, but I'm telling you, if you don't have this, it's gonna be legit. Netflix or Disney Plus?
Ooh, that is a good one. Wow. I am going. That's a hard one because I watch both of them.
So do I.
The only reason I am going to say Netflix is because of the diversity. I
Yes.
can get documentaries,
Okay.
I can get action, I can get drama, I can get whatever. With Disney, I know what I'm getting. I'm getting, the superheroes or the animation, one of those, but not necessarily the serious stuff when I want serious.
I would have to agree with you. I actually said Netflix as well. I was actually playing this game with myself. I said, what would I pick before I have Jim on here? And I answered my own questions. All right.
Hey, it's always good to be able to talk to ourselves, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. Is that right? Yes. Yeah, I got it. Okay. All right. New phone or new laptop?
New laptop. I've
Ah,
got the same. I've got the same phone I've had forever. I just have an issue, with paying $1,000+ every year or two for a new phone. I don't. All I need my phone to do is make my call, take my call, send my text, and let me see my email, and I'm good.
life of the NFL media. You're preaching to the choir, man. This is an iPhone 7. So this is like 3 years old, 4 years old. I'm the same with you. There you
I'm
go.
8. I'm 8. You're 7. I'm 8. So yeah,
Hey, that's why we're boys, dude. We think alike. Great minds think alike.
there you go. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I love it. All right, here's another one. Apple or Android?
Oh, Apple.
Okay.
Too many viruses with Android on the computers,
I agree.
and I've never had a problem with Apple. I know I'm probably jinxing myself now, but never had an issue.
Same here. All right, here's a good one. Zip up or pull over hoodie?
Pull
I seen you
over,
wear both.
pull over,
Pull over.
pull
Okay.
over.
Okay.
Yeah,
Pepsi or Coke?
I'm a Pepsi guy. My wife's a Coke woman,
Okay.
but I don't drink a lot of soda. That's one of the things I did cut out. I cut out Gatorade
Mm-hmm.
and I cut out soda. I remember because Larry Fitzgerald used to always tell me Gatorade is just empty calories, and I found that just drinking water allowed me to then splurge in some of the other areas where I like to splurge. So
Good job.
yeah,
All about balance, Jim. I like
yes.
it. I like it. All right. Last but not least, scary movie or funny movie?
It depends on my mood. Um, I'm gonna say funny because I honestly haven't seen of late too many scary movies because they're predictable.
Yeah.
If you had asked me a suspense versus scary, then I might have gone suspense because I love a good drama or a movie that makes you think a little bit. But if we're talking scary or funny, I'm going to say funny.
All right. I would agree with you. I said funny. I don't like scary movies. So that's when I
I
get freaked out.
No, bro, they're all so predictable many times, following the same script. It's like, okay, just when you think it's over, it's not. So be ready for that. Or I'm trying to think of the last scary movie where I was like on the edge of my seat a little bit, and
Let's think. Think about it. Okay, what's
I
a good one?
am. I'm trying.
What about The Exorcist? That scared the
Dude,
crap out of me, dude.
no, come
Oh, it
on, man.
scared
I,
me,
I
bro.
I laughed at
Oh.
that movie. But here's the truth about The Exorcist. Back in the day when it first came out,
Yeah.
my mom went to see it with her girlfriend, right?
Okay.
I never forget. Now I'm a young kid, and my mom told me her girlfriend actually took a gun into the theater with her to see The Exorcist because she wanted to make sure that nothing happened.
Are you being serious?
I'm not lying to you. I'm not lying to you. I'm thinking to myself, as I got older, well, what's a gun gonna do to a spirit,
Spirit. Yeah.
But my mom said she literally had a gun in her purse.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. That is
Yeah.
crazy. That's a story to tell. See, you would never know. Only on the BEASTwriter Family would you hear this inside information on Jim Trotter's life story. Thank you so
No
much,
one
Jim.
outside of my family has ever heard that story, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no one outside of my family. You're the first.
Only here in the BEASTwriter Family. Boom! Look at that.
There you go. Yeah.
All right, Jim. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the show and being part of the BEASTwriter family. We really appreciate it. You've been in my corner, like I said, since day one, and I can't thank you enough. Mahalo, and man, I just can't thank you enough. So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and hopping on the BEASTwriter family. Thank you so much.
No, bro, I'm a fan. Keep killing it.
We'll do. All right, man. We'll talk soon, and definitely keep up the Huddle and Flow podcast, man. Let's keep it going.
We're gonna try. We're gonna see what happens.
All right, buddy. Take it easy.
All right, my brother.
All right, later. All right, so we are back here. So that was Jim Trotter. Again, what did you guys think of the show? What do you guys think of the show? I thought it was a pretty good show. You guys, a lot of good feedback here. That was my man, Jim Trotter from NFL Network. Awesome. Awesome guy, right? So we're going to have more guests on the BEASTwriter family. Obviously, Jim Trotter is part of our BEASTwriter family, and we're going to have more things to come. I'm going to go and hit the gym, so I'd love to discuss more with you guys, but I'm going to get to the gym so I can get my workout and my gains on. And again, thank you so much, Jim Trotter, for hopping on our show. Go follow my man, Jim Trotter, if you haven't done so. Again, he is on Twitter, so you can follow him. Let me just pull it up right there. I'm just going to pull it up. I'm going to pull it up on my Twitter for you guys. And follow the Huddle and Flow podcast. It's the best podcast out there. It's now a finalist for being the best podcast out there. So go ahead and click your vote and start the Huddle and Flow podcast. Download it. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple Podcasts, I believe. So you guys can get your gains while listening to the Huddle and Flow podcast. Well, that'll be it for today. I hope you liked what we had to say. If you did, please hit the subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner of your screen as you stay up to date on all things Beast in real time. I had a great time, guys. Look at the comments here. I mean, great show, great job. Thanks, Jim. Great interview. Good job, Beast. Great show. Hey, it's only a great show, you know, because again, in here in the BEASTwriter family, we're all about good vibes only. And that's what I'm saying. Like, if you want people on, we'll get these people on. You guys got to tell me what you guys want, and we'll make it happen. So we have more guests to come. This is not the first. This is only the first wave of guests that we're having on. Jim Trotter, we hit it with a bang, with a home run. That's my man. You guys can, you guys see why I look up to him as as my mentor. Obviously, it's because look at how humble he is. I mean, here's a guy who's made it, and he's bringing things and topics that no one really wants to discuss, but yet him and Steve Weiss are doing it on the Huddle and Flow podcast. I mean, that says more about who they are and who their character is as people, let alone what they do. Obviously, we know they do great work, but as people, standing up for what you believe in, despite what others may think, that's what the BEASTwriter family is all about. We can talk about football, we can talk about fitness, but at the end of the day, if you don't stand up for what you believe in, what's the point of living? If you don't, what does that saying say? If you don't, it's almost like, these people, it's like, I forget the saying. It's something like, if you don't stand up for what you believe in, then what's worth living? But then I also said that, it's something like, it's not worth living if you don't stand up for what you believe in. But you guys get the point. Like, basically what I'm trying to say is, be yourself and never waver. Do the right thing, always do the right thing. And man, Jim Trotter, Steve Weiss do a great job at that. Awesome stuff. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take a break. Carlos, I am going to listen to you and take a break right now. We've been on a live stream for how long now? Probably, well, this one's an hour, but we've been on for about, 2 hours on the other one. So definitely need to get something going, and need to take my pre-workout. Tommy Huxley says, John, you have to show your face, not the avatar. Who's John? I don't know who John is. Who's John? Robert Watson. I'm glad you liked it, Robert Watson. What'd you guys think? Or Arun Singh says, can you get ex-players, maybe Steve Young? I can definitely get X players. I have a good relationship with X players. I will get some X players on for you guys. Tell me who you guys want. Maybe I'll run a poll. Obviously, Steve Young, that's going to be kind of a reach because obviously he has. I'm not so sure he'd want to hop on the BEASTwriter Family podcast as opposed to like some of these bigger ones where he can actually, I don't know if he'd come on to to my show. He probably has a lineup. I probably have to take a seat, BEASTwriter, and maybe we'll pour your number. But yeah, great show. Everyone loves it. So thank you so much for tuning in. I'm gonna hop out again. I don't know what else to say. So I'm tired. Anyways, thank you so much, BEASTwriter. Out. Peace.